Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alec Reed. This is my channel Alec Reads, and today we're reading Wheelchair Accessible by JAG_ on Wattpad, and today we are reading part 8. I really hope that you guys enjoy. Like, subscribe, and comment down below, whether it's just saying hello or whether it's leaving recommendations, and let's jump right into the video. Part 8. I stopped at the intersection, waiting for the light to change to green, as I drummed my fingers against the steering wheel, bobbing my head to the music. I hadn't turned on the radio in my truck in weeks, but today I found myself brushing the dust off of the volume buttons. "Are you going to tell me where we're going?" Ryder asked, practically bouncing in his seat. The only thing holding him down was the seat belt strapped across his chest. "I told you, to hang out with Shauna." "But where?" 403 Paxton Lane." "But what are we doing?" "Hanging out with Shauna." "Ugh," he groaned, falling back into his seat. "You're so annoying." I laughed, turning right at the next corner. "I have no clue what's happening. She just sent me the address." We drove another couple blocks. I turned left, rereading the street name a couple times to make sure we were in the right place. Looking around, I pulled into a parking lot and turned off the engine. "You ready?" I turned to Ryder, but he was already out, shutting the passenger door behind him. I caught up to him as he jumped through the front doors into the warm lobby and spotted Shauna, her curly-haired friend, Allison, waiting for us. "Shauna!" Ryder smiled, rushing over to her and ignoring all formalities. "What are we doing?" "Why don't we go see?" She smiled, wiggling her eyebrows. She spun her chair around, and Ryder excitedly followed her down one of the hallways. I took a few steps forward, but hovered next to Shauna's friend. Hey?" I nodded. "How's it going?" She chuckled. "I see you've given in to Shauna's charms." I blinked. What?" "I just mean that once she's got her mind set on something and making someone her friend, they're going to be her best friend." She laughed, waving her hand. "Come on, let's catch up with them." I rubbed the back of my neck and followed after her, staying a few steps behind so I didn't have to make any more small talk with her. But if she was Shauna's friend, and if I was going to be friends with Shauna, I'm sure I'm going to have to get used to having her around. We dodged around some other people walking through the large building and turned to push open the big double doors, stepping onto the gymnasium with basketball nets. And there in front of me was Shauna in her wheelchair, and my little brother in one too. He was grinning so widely that a part of me was worried his face was about to split. "Mark, we're playing wheelchair basketball." Allison grabbed 2 more wheelchairs from where they were lined up at the side and rolled one to me before plopping herself into her own. She rolled down, turned with ease. I figured she must have done this before. She rolled towards Ryder and introduced herself to him. He smiled big, showing her how he could already push himself forward. I slowly lowered myself into the chair, shifting so that I was comfortable and placing my feet on the platform. Shauna rolled over to me, with a big grin plastered on her face. "I told you I'd let you ride one." "I thought I was going to get a ride in yours." "We could switch," she offered. I shook my head with a smile. "Nah, this one is way more manly." "Is it the butterfly?" she guessed, laughing. Then she moved herself so she was next to me, facing the same direction. "So, you're going to want to place your hands here and here." She took my left hand and put it in the proper position, and I mirrored it with my right. "Then, it's basically exactly how'd you think. Push more on your right wheel to turn left, and the opposite for right. Use pressure from your hands to brake, and voila, you're flying. Just be careful you don't get your fingers pinched. That hurts." I stared down at my hands as I carefully started to push myself forward. It took some time to figure out where the best place to put my hands was, but the most speed. I went up and down the length of the gym before coming back to Shauna. "Are my wheels supposed to be slanted?" They're special for sports, she told me, and they're extra tough in case someone rams into you. I should have known what was coming next. As I went on, minding my own business, doing another length of the gym, I suddenly saw something coming at me from the corner of my eye. Before I could react and turn, Shauna slammed into the side of my chair, and I barely managed to get my hand out of the way in time. I felt the chair wobble, and I let out a yell, worried I was going to fall over, but then the chair managed to steady itself. Then I look over at Shauna, who was hunched over in laughter, mouth wide open but no sound coming out. Your face, she gasped out, giggles escaping between each words. Scream, oh my gosh. I felt heat rise up my neck as I realized we were drawing attention from the other people in the gym. Well, you did just try to kill me. I crossed my arms. Ah, don't be such a baby. I barely touched you. You full-on charged me. That sent her back into a laughing fit, and I had to hold back a smile because I was supposed to be mad at her. Okay, grumpy pants, she chuckled. Let's teach you some skills. I had sort of been expecting her to be really sweet and show me how to do all the things properly, but no. I was constantly bombarded with her sarcastic comments about my progress and jokes about how I could possibly be so terrible at something as simple as this. Why did I bother coming again? I asked Shauna, as Shauna laughed at her latest remark at my coordination. Because this is awesome, Ryder cheered as he raced over to us. When are we going to play? I want to beat Mark at this kind of basketball too. He did a spin to show it off. That won't be too hard, Shauna told him. Mark sucks at both. I narrowed my eyes at her. For the 100th time, I'd had enough of her poking my already bruised ego. Give me a ball, I ordered. Ooh, Allison grinned. It's about to go down. Shauna smirked and rolled over to the ball rack near the wall, picking up one and tossing it over to me. I tried to catch it, but it bounced past me, across the gymnasium, rolling into the wall. Huffing, I turned myself over and went to go get it, placing it in my lap as I rolled back to the group, who were all laughing at my expense. Ignoring them, I looked at Shauna in the eye. It's on. I hate wheelchair basketball. What's the score now, Mark? Shauna asked insistently, not even breathing that hard as she rolled past me. 32-10, Ryder filled in, hopefully, as he smacked his palm against Shauna's. I bent over, trying to catch my breath, as Allison rolled over to me and gave my shoulder a pat. You're really dragging down the team, ma'am. Oh, shut up, I huffed, shoving her hand away. She just laughed and wheeled over to where Shauna and Ryder were preparing the next go. Shauna and Ryder had decided to be on the same team because both of them claimed to want to watch me lose. I had been fine with that, figuring that although Shauna had the home advantage, Ryder's inexperience would slow her down. Apparently not. Shauna drove circles around me, sometimes literally, and easily dodged every attempt I put in to get the ball from her. She was making every single shot, and even though Allison had managed to get some baskets in, we didn't stand a chance. I hadn't pegged Shauna as athletic, or as someone who could make a freaking half-court shot from a sitting position, and honestly, I was very impressed. It was, really attractive. And I had to shake myself out of my thoughts as Shauna suddenly zipped past me with the ball again, and I barely had time to turn around before she was tossing the ball into the basket. Swish! She shouted, her arms in the air, wiggling in her chair for a victory dance. I had to look away, refocusing on Ryder, who looked to be having the time of his life. This is awesome, he laughed. And Mark sucks so much more at this basketball. All right. I rolled my shoulders and shook out my arms. I was going easy on you, up till now, prepared for my real skills to be unleashed. Allison laughed. Oh, you were holding out on me. I'm excited to see this real skill you speak of. Shauna smirked, proudly tossing the ball back and forth between her hands. Let's go then. I raised an eyebrow challengingly, determined to wipe that smug expression off her face. She tossed the ball over to Ryder. You start, my friend. Ryder smiled and placed the ball on his lap, grabbing onto the wheels, and narrowed his eyes in concentration. Allison and I got into position as Ryder started moving towards us at a slower pace. He looked around, trying to figure out how he could get past us, eventually moving towards me, knowing I was the weak link. At least he was good at strategizing. I waved my arms around as a pointless distraction, making silly faces at him the whole time. He laughed at my bad attempts, and I used that moment to try and cut him off. Faster than the blink of an eye, he threw the ball over my head to Shauna, who had managed to sneak past us and was already close to the basket. Spinning my chair around, I started charging towards her in an impressive speed. She saw me coming from her peripherals and started pushing herself towards the basket. I got there just as she lifted her arms to shoot the basket, but my reach was longer than hers. I smacked the ball right out of the air, sending it flying down to the other end of the court. Shauna's jaw dropped before she got a fiery look in her eye and turned her chair again, but I wasn't letting her get away with that easily. I put all the energy I had left into rolling myself down the court harder and harder, faster and faster. The ball was along the wall to an emergency exit door, and I spotted it first, angling myself to get there faster. I bent forward to pick it up and was turning when all of a sudden Shauna came flying and crashed into me. We both shouted as our wheelchairs collided and tipped over, the metal making a loud banging noise in an echoing gym. I landed onto my stomach with a hard thump, and Shauna's upper half landed on my back, knocking the rest of the air out of my lungs. We both laid motionless for a second, catching our breaths. Then Shauna started shaking. My heart stopped. I started pushing myself up to help her, worried she was having some sort of seizure or something. But as I looked over my shoulder, I saw the wide smile on her face. She closed her eyes, covering her face, but she was laughing harder than I've ever heard her laugh before. The sound was contagious. I couldn't help but join in. There was something so pure about her laughter. It was so Shauna. I gently shoved her off of me onto the ground so that I could roll over and sit up. Now she was on her back. A huge grin plastered on her face. Still laughing. I shook my head, but couldn't stop either. Her eyes opened and immediately found mine. My stomach jumped like I had just been kicked in the gut. She looked pretty, even though her hair was sprawled out everywhere. I had to lower my eyes so that my stomach would stop doing that weird feeling. What's wrong with me? Help me up, loser! Shaking my head to get out of my thoughts, I looked up to see Shauna with her hands in the air. Any day now. I rolled my eyes and reached down, covering her tiny hands with mine. As I pulled her into the sitting position, I grabbed her chair and rolled it towards us, helping her back into it. This seems oddly familiar, Shauna muttered, as she used my arm to steady herself as she settled in. You seem to have made a bad habit of running me over. Shauna laughed, and then peeked up at me as I adjusted the butterfly pin to the way she had it, slightly tilted to the left. When I looked towards her again, we were so close that I automatically jerked away, causing her to let out an adorable laugh. I wouldn't say it's been a bad habit. Chuckling quietly, ignoring the other kick to my gut, I reached over and gently shoved her shoulder, not knowing what else to do with my hands. Come on, guys, I'm hungry. Let's order pizza, Ryder called from behind us. Shauna's eyes lit up at the mention of food. Then she smiled at me. Losers buying. I watched her roll away and had to contain the stupid grin on my face. Even though we had gotten beaten pretty badly, I definitely didn't feel like a loser.